This video is brought to you by the Sega Shop. Pick up the new range of Sonic Halloween merch using the link in the video description. They made Amy a witch, and Eggman is a scarecrow now!
Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So I'm here at the EGX Expo, and so is Sonic Frontiers! How about that? And I thought it would be really cool to show you guys an early preview of the game since I'm here and Sonic Frontiers is here and we're all really hyper and excited about it. And I was going to do that. In fact, early this morning I played 20 minutes of the game and recorded some pretty decent footage for you. And then Sega said, no more filming, everybody stop filming, otherwise we'll send you to jail for 1,000 years. So the only footage that I've got to show you is some footage of me playing it for the very first time. On a controller I don't ever use. Oh, I'm sure you're all going to judge my gameplay skills fairly and without any "he's terrible at the game" biases, and I feel great about the comments section of this particular video. So with that in mind guys, please take into account that this is my very first playthrough of the game for 90% of this video, and it's probably not going to be very good. However, I've been replaying this game several times throughout the day, so I hope you'll bear that into account when you hear my thoughts and opinions on the game. Are we all agreed that's a good thing? Great! Thanks for listening, and please enjoy this video. So before we get into this, I kind of have to preface this video with just a little notice, because a couple of days ago, someone did a big no-no and posted a bunch of unauthorized leaks from Sonic Frontiers, and oh boy, Sega is not happy about that. So I just wanted to take a couple of seconds to let both Sega's ninjas and also you, if you are worried about potential spoilers, this video will not contain any leaks of that unauthorized stuff. It's only going to contain stuff that's been available in trailer footage and public demos, as well as stuff that Sega has shown on their official live streams. So nothing from that unauthorized leak will be appearing in this video whatsoever. And just to also further cement that, we will be including, though rather sparingly, some gameplay footage that we did shoot at Sega's booth at EGX. We did have permission from multiple people who were running Sega's booth to do this, and we did go with press credentials. These press credentials, in fact. Yeah, this is my press pass for that event. So I'm hoping that will be fine, but like I said, we'll be using that footage rather sparingly because Sega have been a bit iffy about it. But anyway, hope that's okay, and I hope you're okay and reassured regarding spoilers. This is my epic new coffee mug. Check it out, it's awesome. So there is actual liquid in here. Yeah, there is. This isn't a bit. I hope you can see that. Yeah, I think you can see that. I would tip it further, but I don't want to spill it. I really hope I don't spill this all over me, or that will be really funny if I do that. You can actually pick this up right now from the UK Sega shop. There's not many left. I hope there's some left if you are interested, but yeah, epic coffee mug. Anyway, with that little thing and the brief ad out of the way, let's get talking about Sonic Frontiers. Please enjoy.
Every now and again, I'll play a video game that's very difficult to discuss. More often than not, it's because it's neither completely amazing or completely bad. For every incredible thing it does, it also makes an equal number of questionable decisions, or stops short of becoming something truly stunning. Sonic Frontiers feels like it's going to be one of those titles. Frontiers is a game which has two core elements to it, the overworld and the cyberspace stages. The overworld is full of hundreds of unique pathways, places to explore, things to discover, and it's designed in a way which just makes you want to spend hours exploring each island to find its secrets because it's designed in a way that's fun and engaging to do so. There's a constant sense of mystery about the island, from the ruins which litter the landscape, to the mighty titans that dominate the land, to the tiny little mysterious creatures called the Coco. Well, okay. These guys, and even the brilliant music score, just wraps up all this into one mystery that you just have to progress and uncover. The other big part of the game, the cyberspace stages, are the opposite of all those things, and I think we should talk about those first, since it's the main negative of the game, and it's also a lot larger a part of the game than people who are blindly defending it are willing to admit they are. A lot of commentary has already been made about the cyberspace stages reusing the layouts from the past 10 plus years of Sonic games. But this is a misplaced criticism. The problem isn't just the layout, the problem is the gameplay. It really shouldn't be that mind-blowing for you to hear this. For over a decade, people have pointed out how simply having one gameplay mechanic which solves virtually every challenge, or how the idea of multiple pathways being, wow, I can run through this section instead of an automated grind rail, isn't that fun or unique an experience after the first initial playthrough. But there's some good news! There have been some improvements in the controls over the absolute piss take that was Sonic Forces, but these improvements come with some near comical problems. Take a look at my playthrough of Sky Sanctuary and you can clearly see what I mean. This rail that I'm grinding on drops me off into the centre of the platform. Notice how just to the left and right of Sonic there are two boosters into rings. Well, that's not a problem. This game has the quick step. And one of the things you use the quick step for is to quickly orientate yourself onto the correct pathway. Well, let's see how this works in front. Sonic, no! What the hell just happened? Well, it seems that the quick step is actually the dodge move from the overworld. And in the overworld, this works fine. Enemies have wide range sweeping attacks, so the dodge mechanic has a wide radius so you avoid being hit. But in the cyberspace stages, this move is now the quick step. And because it appears to be using the same distance from the overworld, it's now too wide. You can't ever align yourself correctly. This means that despite the cyberspace stages having sections which are clearly designed for the quickstep move, you're actually punished for using it. If you're now thinking, this is a really weird thing to harp on about, you're just nitpicking, oh no, this was the most comical thing I noticed. Everything in the cyberspace stages feels a little bit off and broken, so you're not going to enjoy the cyberspace stages. They are the opposite of fun to play. But that's okay, because according to some people on Twitter who get very angry whenever somebody posts reasonable and justified criticism about things that they like, it's alright. They're optional. You don't have to touch them. Oh boy, are you people in for a surprise? Let's save the argument that you freely acknowledge that your very expensive video game has content in it which you know isn't very good and are trying desperately to justify that as being fine for another video / online therapy session. Let's get to the actual argument here. Are the cyberspace stages mandatory or not? Completion of the cyberspace stages rewards you with rare key items that you need to progress in the overworld. And whilst you can find these items by doing side activities, this really isn't the best way to go about it, both in terms of long-term fun and efficiency. Unless your plan is to actually spend hundreds of hours grinding repetitive side activities, you are going to have to play the cyberspace stages multiple times over. Oh no! The cyberspace stages are not mandatory, but there really isn't any other reasonable way to progress through the game without touching them. So let's talk a little bit more about the overworld, because I think it's been pretty obvious so far in this video that I actually do like it, and it is clearly one of the more positive elements about the game. That said, there are a number of significant problems and flaws with this aspect of the game, and I really do think that a lot more people need to be talking about it and be a lot more critical of this. If not, I have a feeling this is going to hurt the game in terms of fan reception in the long run. So let's discuss this aspect of the game in detail, both the positives and the very genuine negatives that this aspect of the game has. Contrary to the cyberspace stages, Sonic controls like an absolute dream in the overworld. He's responsive, real-world forces like gravity and friction feel accurate, and yes, even his acceleration feels right. Sonic hasn't controlled this well for years. It's a radical improvement over previous games, and this is exemplified when you encounter the first boss, Ninja. So my triangle anime wife is frankly the best 3D Sonic boss fight in decades, and part of the reason for this is that you have to use your squishy monkey brain to think when fighting her. Yes, it seems that Sonic Team are using this radical new thing in game development called combat design. What it does is that it gives you an experience that means you actually have to think about what you should do when you're fighting the boss. Anyone who has played a Souls-like is now saying, "This is not that novel a concept, you fool." But I would like to remind you, this is combat design in a Sonic game. For 90% of the bosses in 3D Sonic, the biggest decision a player has ever had to face is, when should I use the homing attack? Ninja is a really good case study to illustrate that Sonic Team are trying to take the boss battles somewhat seriously. This boss is designed in a way that you can now deploy tactics and make actual combat decisions both offensively and defensively. She only has a few basic attacks in the early stage of the game, and whilst the temptation is to rush in and spam basic combos, she will deploy a force field and counter with a very powerful attack. And it's at this point you as the player have some decisions to make. Each one of them has a different level of risk and reward depending on what you do. For example, you can stop and retreat and then wait for another opening, so you won't take damage, but you also won't cause any damage and the fight lasts a lot longer. Or you can attempt to parry the attack, and if you fail, you'll take loads of damage. But if you are successful in pulling it off, it actually puts Sonic in a cool Bayonetta style witch time mode, and until this has an official name, I'm calling it Juice and Jam time. All your attacks now do slightly more damage, and if you deliver the finishing blow in this move, it just looks so cool when my robot triangle wife blows up in slow motion. But as some other people discovered at the convention, you can also slide under Ninja's attacks. You're now attacking from behind, and this seems to do even more damage, and it doesn't enter the slowdown mode, meaning for speedrunners, you can not only beat the boss faster, but you're also not hindered by slowdown from the slow motion effects that plays out on the final hit. And if there's a new game plus, or for when Ninja returns later in the game, I'm willing to bet that aside from having new attacks, Sonic's own abilities will give you even more options, both in terms of counter-attack and going on the offensive.
And this was just one boss. I fought a total of 4. If the first boss has got me this excited, can you imagine how I feel about the other bosses that I faced? So about the other bosses.
The Titans in Sonic Frontiers are close to a complete letdown. They're clearly designed in a manner to make the player feel like they've accomplished an incredible feat due to their sheer size alone. The sad reality is that they're so basic in terms of gameplay that you don't ever feel like you're doing anything. You're effectively robbed of any meaningful tactical decision making or choices when actually taking one of them down. It's got me genuinely worried about future boss fights, since everything on the first island feels like a pseudo-automated moment instead of a genuine dynamic encounter in which the player has to think and come up with tactics in order to defeat a dangerous foe. A good example of this would be Ashura, the first true Titan that you face. This boss looks cool as hell, but it's amazingly dull to fight. I've seen people compare this boss to the Colossi from Shadow of the Colossus, but as someone that's actually played that game, the joy from fighting the Colossi isn't just holding on for dear life and taking down a giant monster, it's the climbing up to the Colossi. Part of your battle is the efforts to actually platform up to the boss's weak point. But in Frontiers, this aspect of that gameplay doesn't exist. What gameplay is here is so diluted down, it really does show that Sonic Team hasn't quite left the spectacle automation era. Yes, this boss looks amazingly cool, but to fight, it's an amazingly dull experience. Simply hit those blue boost rings, oh, all I have to do now is press the homing attack and spam the basic attack buttons. The Titans barely give you any decisions or tactics to deploy. If it wasn't for mashing the attack button, you'd be forgiven for thinking this was a pretty automated spectacle sequence. It looks cool, but it's boring, and it seems a common method to defeating the bosses. Take a look at this one from the Tokyo Game Show trailer. You can clearly see the same automated boosters that Sonic uses to instantly climb up the Titan.
A similar problem exists with the flying boss Squid. Yes, this boss looks really cool, however, in terms of actual gameplay and entertainment value, it's the bare bones basic. It literally is occasionally press the quick step button and, oh, I'm now in range to use the homing attack. That's it. And if that sounds familiar to you, it should, because we face this exact same boss multiple times in Sonic Colors, Generations, and Forces. It is a rehash of that same old chase boss which we have faced for the last 10 years. So I'm a bit worried that for all of these giant Titan encounters, they're pretty much nothing more than a glorified spectacle sequence to give you something to go, ooh, that looks cool, instead of an actual challenge and some good gameplay that's going to be kind of memorable in the long run.
There was, however, one major positive that I'd be doing a disservice not to mention. Against Ashura, you can actually use the Psy Loop on its feet, and it causes him to respond with a unique attack animation. If you then strike the underside of its foot, it'll actually drop some rare resources, but you have to be fast to do this, otherwise his counterattack is an instant kill. And at no point in the game is this telegraphed or even hinted that you can actually do this. It's a reward based purely on your own willingness to play and experiment with the tools you have. I really want more of this in the game.
Let's talk a little bit more about the overworld, because according to some people on Twitter, this is the actual bulk core content of the game, so you don't have to play the cyberspace levels. It's fine. But if that's your stance on it, the activities that you engage with in the overworld, they have to be pretty substantial as well as pretty fun in order to justify that, and also justify a significant portion of this video game's content being not very good. So, are the overworld activities any good? And do they justify that stance?
The overworld is full of small activities. None of these take that long to do, and they're quite varied in terms of content. Completing these populates the island with more rails and platforming segments, as well as mini activities like time trials. Out of all the different activities that I played, not once did I encounter one which I genuinely thought was bad. Everything was enjoyable, and most took around 30 seconds to complete. They're the equivalent of bite-sized moments of fun, and this is kind of a problem. When you dilute the activities to the player to these brief moments of fun, whilst they're not bad, they don't really give you much to do in terms of longevity or replay value. A player may undertake them once or twice, but that's it. Outside of the initial novelty of trying something new, these activities just lack the depth to justify repeat playthroughs en masse. It's a similar problem that a lot of sandbox and other open world type games experience. The go-to example here would be Grand Theft Auto Online. That game is full of tons of different side activities, none of which are truly awful, but players stopped playing them after the first or second tries in favour of the bigger, structured content. The activities in Frontiers also suffer from this problem.
But that's okay, because Sonic Frontiers does have some major core content in it, which has been designed to be replayed multiple times. Unfortunately, those stages are the cyberspace levels. Yay!
And this problem of becoming bored with the overworld activities also impacts the regular enemies that you face in the overworld too. Most of the time, I just found myself avoiding them because they were either amazingly dull or too annoying to stop and waste time battling them when I could be progressing with the story. Not once did it seem worth my time to stop doing whatever it was I was doing in order to destroy a random robot who I can easily avoid.
And if you're thinking, well, I don't care about these bite-sized moments of fun. Look at all those pathways. There's hundreds of routes. I'm gonna have so much fun using these to explore the island. Oh my goodness, are you in for a rude awakening? So there's actually quite a major flaw with all of these new routes and pathways that you unlock as you do a few of the side activities. And Sega have been very clever in actually hiding this fact, and even the public demos are designed in a way that not many people are going to notice this until they get their hands on the full game that has no time limit. The demo is approximately 15 to 20 minutes in length depending where you've played it. It takes around 10 minutes for most players to get out of the initial starting valley area, at which point the entire map opens up in front of them and they're free to explore wherever they like. For most players, they're gonna go forward. But let's imagine that you'd played the demo a lot, or there wasn't a time limit, like say the final retail release, and you knew how to get through that initial opening valley pretty quickly, and you were exploring the overworld with quite a lot of time. As you do this and decide, oh, I might go back to a previous area, you'll soon come to the shocking horror realization all of these cool routes and pathways that you've unlocked are all one way.
The level design in open world platforming games is one of the most important parts. You can have lots of cool and fun things for your players to use to traverse the environment, and Frontiers does indeed have this, provided you only ever want to head in one direction. During my time playing the demo, the vast majority of pathways I found all went in the same or only one direction. When I did backtrack, I would often find what I thought was the start of a rail or a pathway, jump on it, only to instantly be boosted back or discovering it was near impossible to progress. The only example I could find clear footage of is, admittedly, a really short one from IGN. So in this clip, I'm coming along this bridge and I want to go to that tower over there. What are my options to do that? Well, I could continue running to the end of the bridge and then up the hill. It'll get me there, but it's not very fun. A more fun and interesting option would be this grind rail. It certainly looks like it would take me to the top of the hill. The fun thing to do in this scenario is to jump off the bridge, land on the rail, and grind to the top of the hill to the destination. Even if I approach this rail from the stream and not the bridge, it looks like it can take you to your destination. But if you actually do this, there's a spring at the top that wants you to go back down. Further up from this rail, there's a second one. Again, it looks like we can take this to our destination, but nope, there's actually a hidden booster in the tall grass right at the top of this one. Let's go back to the bridge again. What are our options for fun? Well, there's another rail to the right. What if we jumped off and, oh, this one has a booster at the end of it too. Like I said a few moments ago, these examples don't look that bad, but these are the only clear video examples I could find that helps explain my experience. There are far worse examples of this in the game. Most, if not all, routes either go in the same direction or are extremely restrictive in terms of one-way travel, preventing fun backtracking. And that's the key argument. What's more fun, running up the hill to the tower or jumping off the bridge and using the rails? So here's an interesting question. Why are these boosters and springs actually there? Well, the reason why is that the game wants you to have enough speed so you hit these rings, but this really doesn't make any sense because Sonic has a boost mechanic which can be used on the rails. This guarantees that you'll always hit those rings if you want to. Furthermore, momentum on rails is roller coaster based, meaning you'll never drop below a certain speed, making any booster on rails absolutely pointless other than to give the player a spectacle sequence. It just keeps going. It doesn't decrease. And it becomes near comical at how these boosters wreck possibilities for fun navigation and limit the player in terms of actually having fun in the environment. Let's take a look at that route which follows the stream again, but this time we'll start from the other end of the path. Over in the distance there is a waterfall. It's quite an iconic landmark. Now say we were actually coming back from this direction and we saw these two rails here. It's very easy to jump from this hillside on the right onto this rail. Not only does this rail end on a rock which encourages you to climb up there and see what there is, there's even a booster that sends you in the direction you want to go. Everything about this rail says it goes in this direction. But what happens if we reverse the footage to simulate this route? Well, let's take a look. Oh, we'd hit this other booster sending us back the way we just came, but then we'd hit that other booster and go back in this direction, and then we'd hit the other booster, and the only way to stop this is to either jump off the rail or to jump onto the next one, which I might point out has a booster at the end to ensure we go in the direction the game wants us to go. Why not just jump over it? Because even if you got the angle right, you'd hit this boost ring which sends you back in the opposite direction. And even if it didn't, don't worry, because there's not one, not two, but 3 boosters on this rail all ready to send you back. What the fuck?
Badnik Mechanic, you're starting to scare me. Frontiers sounds bad. What are you doing? No! Oh, just relax. Sonic Frontiers is far from a bad game. In fact, at the moment, based on what I've played, I'd say it's a good game. And I definitely feel way more positive towards it than I ever did towards both Sonic Forces and even Sonic Lost World. It's just got a few issues that I think we need to acknowledge and be bracing ourselves for. Based on what I've played, Frontiers is probably going to be one of those games which you find really amazing and simply fantastic on the first playthrough. But on your second playthrough, you're going to really start to see the flaws and the problems that it has. And I bet in 5 years' time, YouTube is going to be flooded with all these idiots saying, Sonic Frontiers 5 years on, was it ever good? Oh, fuck. That idiot, that's going to be me, isn't it?
Sonic Frontiers, 5 years on. Was it ever any good? Coming soon to Badnik Mechanic in 2077.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comments below and consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. And if you disagreed and think I'm a stupid poo-poo head for saying that Frontiers isn't perfect despite playing it for a very long time, feel free to call me that in the comments. And then consider joining my Patreon page or buying me a coffee tip, since this wasn't a cheap trip. It was £3 for a cup of tea and a tenner for a hot dog. What the fuck, London? Links to support my channel and the work I do are in the video description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Oh yeah, and you can also draw a penis using Sonic's side loop ability, and there's actually an explosion of rings at the tip when you do so.
Mighty fell down. How long have you fallen down? Let me provide a little bit of context here. The demo is approximately 20 minutes in length. It takes around... Bye!